I'd like to call to order the Village of Lake Bluff Sustainability and Community Enhancement Ad Hoc Committee regular meeting for Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. First item that I have to get out of the way is a finding that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. As its co-chair, I find that an in-person meeting of the SEC is not practical or prudent due to COVID-19 emergencies. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, this meeting will be held primarily virtual pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act. Members of the public can participate via Zoom, whether at a computer or by phone. Additionally, as required by law, at least one representative from the village will be present at the Village Hall boardroom, and the virtual meeting will be simulcast for members of the public who do not wish to view the virtual meeting from another location. Okay, with that out of the way, can I get a roll call, please?
Sure. Member Barrett?
Here.
Member Cole?
Here.
Member Hans?
Here.
Member Richer?
Here.
Member Twitchell?
Present.
Co-chair Puryear?
Present.
And co-chair Renner?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will go to the consideration of the November 3rd, 2021 special meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments or corrections to these meeting minutes? If not, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, this is roll call vote, right?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a roll call?
Yes. Member Barrett?
Are we back to roll call? I'm sorry, I got confused.
Approving the meeting minutes.
Second, yes. Aye.
Member.
I thought you were asking for a second motion. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. We're just going to do a roll call.
Okay,
Which is required in a virtual meeting setting.
Yes.
got it. Okay. Yes, approve the meeting minutes.
Member Cole?
Aye.
Member Hans?
Aye.
Member Richer?
Aye.
Member Twitchell?
Aye.
Co-chair Puryear?
Aye.
And co-chair Renner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is where we allow public comments up to 15 minutes for anything that is not on tonight's agenda, for anyone who would like to bring anything up. I do see a hand raised, so we'll take public comment at this point for things not on the agenda. And just general guidelines for the purposes of the meeting, please state your name and address.
Co-chair Renner, I believe Paul and Kathy are here to comment on the item regarding the food diversion program and actually not for the public comment. Is that correct, Paul?
That's correct.
Okay, well then we can bring you in shortly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so this does bring us, if there's no other comments not on the agenda, brings us to the agenda. And Samantha, do you want to take us through this?
Yes. I just want to start with the Village of Lake Bluff has several ways to mitigate waste, especially food waste, through sink disposal, home composting, drop-off services at the Public Works Recycling Facility, and the village's food scrap ride-along program. However, the village continues to look into other diversion options. Tonight, resident Janice Snowbridge will present a proposal that will establish an additional diversion program, the Village of Lake Bluff Food Scrapping Co-op. She identifies 3 goals for the project, which include to promote and reinforce new behavior in the way Lake Bluff households dispose of food scraps, to thus aid in reducing an ever-expanding carbon footprint, to deliver an interactive learning format through direct person-to-person contact and active participation, and to create community website where information on the how-to of food scraps disposal, composting, and other activities to reduce one's carbon footprint is easily accessible. So the Village of Lake Bluff Food Scrapping Co-op program will allow residents to be the owners of the projects, as residents will be responsible for funding. Support of this proposal will initiate a multi-year-long demonstration project that will create a series of mini neighborhoods consisting of 30 to 60 contiguous households committed to sustainably disposing their food waste. And I will turn it over to Ms. Snowbridge to present her, or to give her presentation, and I will share her slides whenever she is ready.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a little brief history of this. So I don't think people are familiar that actually Swelco, which is a county project, and connected with the county, came into being, and that is our major. I'm gone. Okay, that is our major source now of keeping things together. But anyhow, in 1989, the state of Illinois Safety and Solid Waste Management passed a law, and that was over 30 years ago. And they said that the solid waste management as presented in Illinois was not really satisfactory to what was going on. Up until that time, Lake Bluff really had their own, everybody had their own way of reducing solid waste. And it was pretty bad here, because I've lived here 60 years, and it got pretty bad. We went from the artesian park, and then we finally moved it out to a landfill where now the public works is. And we had our own trucks, and everybody else, every municipality had their own trucks, and it was there was very little place anymore to put the waste. By 1991, Lake County proposed that they formed a committee, and they got into the solid waste management, and they formed SWELCO, which is the solid waste management of Lake County. And by 1993, SWELCO was fully operational and set out in descending order to engage in practices set down in the law that were: one, to reduce volume of solid waste at the source; two, set up practices that would enable recycling and reuse of solid waste; three, induce combustion with energy recovery; four, pursue the use of combustion for volume reduction; and five, utilize disposal in landfill facilities. Lake Bluff was one of the first organizations to join SWELCO, and we have had village administrators on that board, I think, almost from the time it was started. And we now have, SWELCO has 45 members. 43 are municipalities. One is Naval Training Center Great Lakes, which does not pay membership. The other one is the county. The county pays into as a member for all the unincorporated areas. So we have 43 municipalities involved in this, and the county, which are paying members, and they pay dues to SWELCO based on what we have per household. So Drew can tell you how much he pays. I don't know what the current rate is at this time, but it amounts to like $2 or $3 per household that are paid into Swelco to join the organization. Swelco, in turn, is contracted with with private, all landfills in Lake County are private. And we have two major landfills here where our solid waste goes. And we try to divert it at the beginning. And remember the old things I can remember we had projects where we were collecting aluminum cans and we were compressing them and we were collecting scrap woods and we were collecting all the paper. Remember the paper drives the scouts would have and it was hoped that all this would pay for itself. And for a while, it was okay. You know, it did pay for itself. But eventually, it became a drudge in the market. And today, the communities are actually just lucky if they break even on some of this disposal. And many are paid for. We are very lucky to live in Lake Bluff because we have several sources. Lake Bluff has, if you go out to the public works facility, we have the ability out there. We recycle. We have certain containers that recycle electronics. We used to get paid for that, but we don't anymore. We have material, any kinds of material. We have been for that we can recycle, clean scraps like socks with holes in it and underwear, even shower curtains. They take some of this stuff. We were able to recycle shoes at the Park District, and we are able to recycle many things out there. But we still have a huge problem, and Swelco has a huge problem with getting people to recycle food. And food scraps make up about, depending on who you read, the Department of Agriculture tells us that probably a third of the food that is produced in this country is wasted some way or other. But that includes things that are left at farms that don't get off the farms, or, you know, and we in Lake County, the estimate is about 20%. Let's just say, to make it a nice round number, 20% of the food that goes into landfills at the present time is food. Okay. And about 4 years ago, Lake Bluff, I think we're going into the 5th year, but Drew will have to correct me on that, where they decided they had a program, they developed a program for collecting at curbside yard waste. And they went into this program that by law, anybody that recycles yard waste, any company that takes on yard waste to recycle, can also take on 10% food scraps. This is just an automatic thing. Unfortunately, we only have one company that will do this. And it happens to be Lake Bluff is able to do that with a company called DK Organics up in North Chicago. Okay. However, the problem with that is they will only take vegetable food scraps along with the yard waste, principally vegetable. They'll take eggshells and this kind, but they won't take meat and bones at the present time. And this is a huge problem. And so in itself, we have come now to the point where the county is really going into this thing. We have several people that are really looking into this problem because in 2014, we said, okay, we got to do something about this food that we're scrapping. And at this point, we really haven't gotten very far with it. Again, which is most important. Now, there are, of the 45 members, that belong to Swelco. Most, there 40, I think it's 42 of them are franchisees, which means that they have to bring in their own waste haulers. They have to contract with their own waste haulers. Lake Forest does not, they do their own. I think they're the only ones right now that do their own waste hauling in trucks to whatever station they have to take it to. After it's sorted into, right now we're sorting into 2 bins. But we don't have any special bins in Lake Bluff for food scrapping, okay? But we do have a thing, and I think there's only about 4 of the agencies that do, where we can put out the food scraps into the paper with the product, with the yard waste, and we get to do it 12 months of the year. Now, Lake Bluff is also unique. I think there's only about 4 other of the 43 agencies or the with Swelco that we pay for all our waste hauling and contract for our own waste haul, which everybody does. But we pay for it with taxpayers' funds. In other words, we levy for this. Other municipalities and other franchises do not levy for this. They charge people extra for any waste hauling, and it's part of like the water bill. Say when we get a water bill, they get bills for garbage removal, any kind of garbage removal. So, and some of them do have food scraps and meat scraps going with it. For instance, Highland Park does this, and Deerfield will soon have this, and they'll have their own containers for this. So they'll have 3 containers instead of the 2. But they in turn, the households pay for this. Okay, it's part of the over the board thing. Lake Bluff does not have the money to because we levy for taxes on it to go into the kind of arrangement where we could take in all food scraps, okay, and deliver them. Nor is there any place in Lake County where that we could have them disposed of, okay. Any place that does take food scrapping is out of county. So we have to ship it out to McHenry, which will take everything. They'll take the food scraps along with meat and bones, or we have to ship it out. Some of it goes to northern Lake County. And so the further we have to haul this stuff, of course, the more expensive it is, okay? In other words, it's a special contract. So what we are proposing here for this is that we set up a cooperative. Village sets up a cooperative. And this cooperative will furnish people with pails, and it'll furnish them with the liners that go with the pails. And we will go door to door, and we'll set up a project. And I'm proposing that it be in the North Terrace. At this time, there are 102 households in the North Terrace. It is a center of our population community. We have just under 2,000 households, but the North Terrace is really the center of that. Okay, so you have the area to the west, and you have the area to the north, and you have the area to south, and you have the areas to the east. They're part of Lake Bluff. Lake Bluff is just, we have about 5,000, about 5,600 population at this time, with just under 2,000 households. All right. So And we, in this community with 102 residents of our households, we go to there and we will recruit members for this cooperative. Now, we'll need some upfront money for this, but we'll get to that in a minute, okay? We will have a container, a waste container for about every 10, 15 houses, okay? And that will be formed our neighborhood. And for that neighborhood, we will have a student, high school student, preferably, to manage that container. They will be responsible for that container. And Mariani Landscape, God bless it, they think this is a wonderful idea. And they have agreed to build around this container a housing so that it will be environmentally friendly. It will look like part of the environment. It will be placed on public land, public right of way, and it will be landscaped so that it doesn't really look like a container. And the households that are recruited can take their food scrap, including meat and bones. And that means when you do that, you can take pizza cartons, soil covered paper products, and food products, and this all can be recycled instead of going into the landfills, okay? So you're really taking about 20% of your food scrapping out of the landfills. Now the landfills, actually, food no longer disintegrates in landfills because it's gotten to the point, since they are run by private corporations, that once the food scrap gets into the landfills, it is compacted at this point. It used to be that you should be able to disintegrate and naturally with the oxygen and gas, but now it's compacted so tightly that if you throw it, I think Walter Willis said the best example, I were to put a banana in this landfill, you know, a banana that was rotten, and I would throw it out with the garbage, that they could dig up that landfill, portion of the landfill 50 years from now, and that rotten banana would still be intact because it's not getting any oxygen. So we're just putting more and more junk in our landfills. Now, if the student kind of thing would then be responsible for all the households in his neighborhood. And he would have a central mentor, a volunteer. And these volunteers for mentoring, they can mentor more than one student for this camp. In the North Terrace, we would probably need about 10 of these large containers placed in strategic, places that people could get to. Walk the dog, put it in the container, okay? Or if people were handicapped and couldn't, get to the container, but would still be willing to recycle. And I'm getting to that point that the student then would be responsible for seeing that got from my house to that container. And then on days when it is picked up, because it's a special container, then the student would, in the early morning, would take the container out of the housing and then be responsible for replacing the paper liner that would go in it, because remember, it's going to be a leaf kind of bag that will go into there, because everything has to be able to be recycled into compost, and then it would go, and then they would replace the container at night, okay, after it was disposed of, and put the paper back in, and then we would repeat the process the next week, okay. This setup, I think will work, because the students will also educate. What has been lacking we have some wonderful, wonderful people and things ready to go in this. We have people, we have lawyers, environmental lawyers, we have high school teachers, we have all the schools are interested in this project, the garden club, I've talked to all these people. Open lands, both open lands, even in Lake Forest, is interested in this. We have people that are willing to go the length for this project. What we need now is an organization. Now, we will collect data. Part of the thing with this whole thing with Swelco, and God bless them. Again, they're a government organization. They are under the heading of the county, but they are separate, just like the health department. And they are, everybody's bogged down in doing the same thing the same old way, which has not worked. And all this data will go, the library will be responsible for heading up, collecting all the data on this project. And the kids will then feed it into the library. The library has accepted will accept the responsibility for doing this. A marvelous librarian over there who's the outreach coordinator named Jillian Chapman. We've gotten a bid from them, and it will cost approximately $4,000 a year to run the database where everybody can enter. We can enter, Green Minds can enter this. Green Minds are really into food scrapping, outdoors food scrapping, but then most people can't. One of the things that has been lacking with the curbside thing, basic, and we only have, by the way, of the 2,000 households, we'll just say 2,000 because we're a little bit under that, only 44 have participated in this project. And it took me a great deal to even get that amount of data. So it has not, that's less than 3% that have been doing this for 4 years, even though the project has run 4 years. And it's a good concept. It's just that we haven't got a center point. We haven't got the leadership is lacking. And somehow or other, it kind of fell apart. There's no bad guys in this scenario. It's just that we're working with government units. We're working with contractors, and everybody's their own franchise. We have to keep this in mind because everybody's kind of doing their thing. Drew has to contract or set the contract and negotiate, and these contracts take a long time because he has to get the best out of our tax dollar because this is coming out of our tax dollar. It's not paid separately. When we get the project rolling, the village will help us open up a 501c3, okay, which we need for this project. And then people are more willing to donate to this kind of thing because it becomes tax, we take it off our income tax as a workable project, and people are willing to donate this. We have several legislators. The county board is really ripe for this now, and they're really thinking about it because what they're doing, of course, they're responsible for Swelco, and they pay the Swelco people, part of this. And the Lake County Health Department is acting as the agent for the EPA, which is kind of interesting. I FOIA'd that, and I can't find out just exactly how much money they're getting for this project, but I do know that I think they only had about 6 complaints, I think, last year for people that were not who have been violating health regulations with the garbage. So that's basically the setup. We have a marvelous state senator that is really interested in the environmental impact. Our county board chairperson and several people now on the county board are very much interested in this project. But what we need is to collect the data. We have to run the demonstration project, collected data so that we're not riding on the seat of our, you know what, like this has been going on for many years. And we have to be able to say, it does work when you do direct education. You have people directly responsible for a neighborhood, many neighborhood, and you have a center where all this data can be fed in. And these kids are whiz, you know, I have to have somebody who had to help me even get on the, the network tonight. And we had to practice it to make sure I could do it. And like somebody knocked the camera out, so we had to get all that together. But anyhow, this is this is the way it is with me. Paul is my son-in-law, and my daughter is Kathy Bohanka, and they have been marvelous to support. Kathy has, and Paul has been with me since the beginning. We have somebody at the high school that we can get a couple of students that can run a documentary on this from the start. And we can, and from the way we start the project, how we start the project, who's involved. And right now, all our government forms, schools, park districts, the park district, and of course, the village, and want to participate in this. And Mariani has offered to help us do this. And so it's just a matter of now setting things down, opening up the website, excuse me, at the library, and getting the county possibly helping us through writing a grant for this, and possibly even the state. Even the state might be interested, I think, under the circumstances, helping us with this project and private investment. I have been told that there are several people who are very much interested in this environmental thing, that would be willing to open checks, provide, we have this in writing, and we're very serious about this. The writing a proposal is not a problem, because this has all been written down. This has taken me, this has been going on over a year now. And all these negotiations, and I noticed some people that I have been communicating with, but this is the first time I've seen them, and who are on this panel. So that's the extent of it. So if you have any questions, why, feel free to ask.
Dan, can I sprinkle some seasonings on that?
Yeah.
So just for you who don't know Jan Schnobert, Jan has been, as she said, longtime village resident. She's been involved in a number of initiatives, and I would describe her as tenacious and a problem solver. Jan was instrumental in solving the dial-a-ride services for the township, and trying to break down those barriers between the various townships and curing that. So she's been through and dealt with bureaucracy before, right, Jan?
Oh, yeah.
I'm hopeful that Jan, you'll go through your PowerPoint real quick to kind of highlight the program again. I think the goal of tonight for everybody here is, this is, it may be as bleak as Jan painted, the way the state of Illinois, Lake County, and most municipalities deal with food waste. Is not great. We can all do better. Yes, we are a leader, but we can always do better. And that's when Jan came up with this idea. She is sunk her fingers into this problem and wants to cure it, and is talking to all levels of government around that, trying to create infrastructure. That's one of the problems in Lake County, is that there's the absence of infrastructure for food waste dispersion. But this may be another way to do it. We don't pretend to have all the answers. And Jan came to me with this idea, and we said, let's workshop it with the SEC and talk about what their thoughts. We've got Alexa on the call. She's a high school student. Maybe she has some feelings about maybe her peers. Would they want to be involved in this? I'm hoping to hear from you all your general thoughts on it. So that, does it need to adjust or add tweaks based off what Jan's going to go through with the PowerPoint? And then what I was really hopeful for, we sent out notices, as you saw in the packet, to the neighborhood And unfortunately, we do not have a robust participation, because that's one of the things I was hoping to get from this group, is have the neighborhood weigh in. So how do you feel about this? Let it be a focus group. Tell us how, this strikes you. Do you want to have this communal system in place? Because one of the things I've heard over the years with Lake Bluff's current ride-along system is it makes sense in some ways, and that a lot of people just don't generate enough food waste to have a third cart, right? We just don't do it in a timely way that we really need to have that third cart. So a communal system may make sense. At the same time, the way our system's set up, where you can, we have year-round yard waste, so you can throw your food scraps along in that, and it fits within the current parameters of state law. But the rub is a lot of people don't do their own lawns, right? There's a lot of lawn services, you won't have a paper bag. And so that just misses that opportunity. It doesn't stop people from doing home composting. I know several residents that do that on their own, and there's different ways to manage that. So, and there's people doing that. So we're just, maybe this is another way. And Europe has a lot of these communal approaches to problem solving. Jan, do you want to go through the PowerPoint? Or Paul, did you want to do that?
I'm going to do that. Paul is.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you, Drew. This is a presentation that, and again, I want to acknowledge Jan for all the hard work she's put into getting us to where we're at for this presentation tonight. Samantha nicely articulated the three goals of the program, and a lot of the more detailed elements of it, Jan has reviewed with the team. So I just want to touch very briefly on a couple of the few introductory comments, so that really everybody on this call tonight understands, what we're talking about in terms of generation of gases and the impact on our environment through just this natural process, current state, and what we hope to slowly move towards. So next slide. So why does food waste even matter? As Jan mentioned, food waste represents fully 21.6% of all municipal solid waste. It's the single largest category of material that's placed into municipal landfills. When it's compressed, as Jan mentioned, it's tightly packed. There's not a lot of opportunity for air and specifically oxygen to get in there and participate in that decomposition process. We've talked about who pays for it. The villages, the various communities within Lake County are each paying in some way, either direct charge to the residents or through a tax bill. Next slide. So why else does food waste matter? Methane gas. When that tightly compacted food is sitting there, as we've heard tonight, 50 years later, you've still got elements of that banana peel sitting there. However, when you can take that food waste and mix it in with an oxygen-rich environment, i.e. normal air, it will not generate this very harmful methane that is the current state. And as you see, really the key point of this slide is at the bottom. Methane is 26 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. So what can we do as an individual household, as an individual community member, as a village to help begin to change this over? And that's really the crux of the presentation tonight. Next slide. These alternatives have already been discussed. So, and again, we've already heard, the sad fact of the matter is that less than 3% of residents in Lake Bluff have taken advantage of this ride-along program, where food scraps are going in with the yard waste. And really, I think what has become clear to myself, at least, and perhaps others, it's not lack of wanting. And if the entire village of Lake Bluff saw those alarming numbers about methane, they would get on board. But before there can be adoption, there has to be awareness. So I'll ask Samantha to really switch to the goals again, and we'll just go through them very briefly before we get to the action plan. So if Sam, you could go to the goals of the program. Next slide. Right here. So again, it's a threefold goal, right? It's a community goal to promote, make aware, and reinforce new behaviors on the way Lake Bluff approaches food scrapping. There is an educational goal. So we would deliver this on a household by household basis, again, with the help of the youth of our community at the middle school and high school level, to really educate door to door, if you will, on the importance of this initiative. And then lastly, the reporting goal. A community website would be created, managed by the Lake Bluff Public Library, which would really serve as a resource, a how-to for food scraps disposal, again, generating data and having metrics available so that eventually Lake Bluff could serve as a template, if you will, for other communities within and outside of Lake County to implement this type of a program. Next slide is the individual. So one slide just on how we would envisage the project organization. There would be a board of directors. It would include the Lake Bluff Library person who would be managing the website, one or two other people to serve as in an oversight capacity. And as Jan mentioned, this would really start on a very small scale, a couple of streets in the North Terrace of our community. There would be an adult sponsor, someone like myself, for instance, who would work with the student to get the word out to those people on your block who hopefully, you know, I've lived in Lake Bluff for 32 years now, so I know most of the people on my street. I'm happy to help spread the word on this program, working with the student and getting this off and running on a micro level. Same thing could be happening on another street. And then once we generate that data, hopefully expand this within the entire community of Lake Bluff. So I think the next slide is the specific action plan. We've talked about the board of directors, demonstration project that'll be piloted in the North Terrace, 10 or 15 households per mini neighborhood. Jan mentioned Mariani and their important role in developing these receptacles with these animal-proof enclosures, which are not a real eyesore, but very consistent with the current landscape. And then the students would be, again, responsible for contacting each household, educating. Each of these participating households would get a scrapping pail with enough liners to last for a month or so. They would be informed on the how-tos. And the student caretakers for their trouble, we would offer a monthly stipend for them to oversee the whole process. So that's really what we're envisioning with this program. At this point, we'd be happy to entertain any questions. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. So I'd like to open it up to the SEC members for questions. I'll start off with an initial question and let the rest of the committee go. If we go back to the slide of the currently available alternatives for food waste that we have available, but are not maybe being utilized. If we look at, say, garbage disposals, what are the pros and cons of that? We talk about less than 3% of residents using the ride-along program. What if that was 10? What if that was 20? What if that was 30 or 40 or 50% of the village? Along with some of these other food scrapping pails and programs we have. Is this approach ultimate goal to enhance the way our current programs, or to replace the programs that are listed or available alternatives that are available here? I'm trying to understand in terms of bringing us up to the next level.
All programs that we currently have will be part of this project. In other words, we have Green Minds, which have been just wonderful, but they can't get any further than they're getting because they don't have a central clearinghouse. The library would be a central clearinghouse for those that want to do backyard scrapping, okay? Mm-hmm. And so Green Minds could be on available on the library website. We have, I don't know about how many garbage disposals are being used. I don't have to have one. And food waste to the local recycling facility. I don't think that there are too many people, particularly when we don't do meat and bones. This is the real source of the problem, is that we need to have a scrapping program that will collect all waste food. okay? And once you're able to collect all waste food, you could also collect things like pizza cartons, because it will take food soil pizza cartons. It will take food soil paper products, okay? And which we cannot recycle at all anymore under the present circumstances. So they're taking a tremendous amount of waste, but it has to be a total program where you collect all food scraps. We don't have that today, period, in Lake Bluff. But anyhow, the biggest problem has been not that these programs don't work. We have no system of knowing how many people are doing backyard composting. Okay, we do know, and it took quite a bit of searching. I finally was able to get some data. The data system of collection is very, very poor, because it's not. We have no bad people in this thing. There are no bad people. It's just people that need leadership and organization to think out of the box. Okay.
Hey, Jan, can I add a quick footnote also? So I wish I could be announcing that our current relationship with DK Organics, and they're the ones who are ultimately getting the yard waste that has food scrap mix in it, would accept meat and bones, and we're on the verge of getting a yes to that. We just haven't gotten there. I thought I would have had it 60 days ago, but there was a wrinkle. Nonetheless, we're close to getting it, very close. So that will go away. But to answer your very question, Brian, I think the answer is, I think this would be another, we're not looking to eliminate any alternatives. This is an additional one, and to see how it performs, to see, is this actually something that is going to get legs in other subdivisions in Lake Bluff and potentially outside of our borders.
Okay, I don't see, I guess my point is was in terms of investing additional resources, not only the village, but money and other things, is it most efficient to add another program to see how it compares and how it will work compared to the programs we have? Or is it a matter of just simply taking those resources we might have with this new program and applying them to the programs we already have to make them better adopted? So it's more of just a, do you add on or do you enhance? Because certainly what I'm hearing is there's a lot of people who want to improve the whole situation. And Drew, I'm glad to hear about working with DK Organics to do that. And I guess that's just a general question. I don't want to dwell on it because I want to give the other committee members time to talk. But whether it's right to a new program or whether to spend money and resources to expand the programs we do have. So.
It's a great point, Brian. I think at this point, it's fair to say that it's really an awareness problem, which is why we've included that very, very important educational goal. I think very few people in this town, through no fault of anyone, if I was to poll my neighbors and say, you can put your food scraps in your waste bag and it'll get taken out on Monday mornings with your recyclables and garbage, that would be a real epiphany to my neighborhood and I dare say the majority of Lake Bluff. So the awareness piece is going to be key, which is why that's a fundamental aspect of this proposal.
Right. I don't want to dwell on it, but I'll just give it for example. Let's say that those student members who would do this in the North Terrace instead were given bags that said Lake Bluff food waste, and we spent $4,000, and they went home to home and said, hello, here's your food waste bag. If you put this special food, we call it special, but it isn't, right? It's just a paper bag.
Perfect.
To enhance the adoption aware, and people go, oh, I didn't know that, and they put it out in the bag, and maybe bring another bag, and next time you just say, well, you can use your own bag. Oh, okay. What I'm wondering is if the investment of the time of students and community leaders would be better served in enhancing these programs rather than adopting a second one, or a fifth one, or 10th one. So I'll leave it all. I don't want, again, I'm monopolizing time. I don't want to do that.
So Brian, just one quick anecdote here. Paul and I have some really good friends who recycle all the time, and we talk about this all the time, and they told us it's really easy to recycle your food. You put it in your yard waste bag and you put it out there on the curb and it gets picked up. Well, we didn't get the yard waste part because we don't have a yard waste full of food waste. We have like a little bag of food waste every week. And so we put it in a little paper bag and we put it out on this street with the rest of our garbage, and it sat there all week until we brought it back in. So there is an issue with communication, and do you want to use this huge yard waste bag for a small bit of food on a weekly basis, or is there a better way to do it? So I would hate to be using a whole yard waste bag for one canister of food on a weekly basis. And it was never picked up anyway when we used a paper bag. So there's some sort of, you need to register or something. I don't know why they didn't find our food bag out there.
Yeah, and again, I'm open to those ideas, whether a different type of bag, a smaller bag, or if DK Organics is not going to accept everything, would you have gone to the Public Works building and dropped it off yourself? Or would that have been too much time?
It's got to be easy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'll step aside and let the other members talk.
I would like to respond to that. I have talked to, you will not believe how many people, and they said, we have to make it so easy. So easy. And people say they're not doing it because it's too complicated. They have to go out and figure where they get the pail, then they have to figure out where to get the liners, and then they have to figure out, and it really is a lack of one education. Okay, we're not proposing a whole new program. We're proposing an umbrella where we can collect data so we know how many people are really doing backyard composting. We know, and which you can't do in the winter, by the way. You know, it's very difficult. And we're proposing that we have a program where they collect all food scraps. That's the only thing we're doing. We're not saying people should get rid of their garbage disposals. Very few people are going to take their stuff over to the yard on a weekly basis, although there may be some people, I understand, that do that. Some people, Drew has told me some people do it every day. I do not know. We don't know. We don't know who's doing this. If we have a program, one umbrella program, which the library handles, we give everybody who signs up for this program in the demonstration project a pail and liners. And we have a thing that they explain, okay, here's what you do. We have direct education, which we have not had before. Direct education, okay. Where we're doing is face to face. We're saying, okay, here's all you need to do. This is so easy. You just drop everything in this pail. You have the liners. When the liners are full, you take them out. You take them down to whatever, you know, your neighborhood food scrapping can. You put them in. You put a new liner in your pail, and that's all they have to do. But they have to know how to do this. It has to be made simple or it's never going to work. I had one gal down the street who's wonderful. She says, yeah, I was thinking about doing it, but you know, she says, it got so complicated. It got so complicated, I would have to get a pail, and then I would have to get liners, and then I would have to do, and then where would I put it? And she, and this is a very bright gal, I'm not going to mention names, but we have not made it simple. Nor do we have a collection agency where we can collect data and say, okay, here, this works. We have an umbrella with a library, which is central to our community, and a great library. I mean, they are wonderful. They're willing to be at as database where anybody can go with it. They can say, okay, how many people do backyard scrap? Do you know? I don't know. Okay, here we have it. Their lineups say, okay, we do backyard food scrapping, but we need some place to put our meat. By the way, that's a big thing, the meat and bones. The meat and bones is huge. Okay, these people are willing to do this, but we have to make it easy for them. Their lives are complicated. And we have to have an umbrella where all data, all programs, we know exactly. Okay, we can say John Jones is doing backyard food scrap. Fine, Greenpeace can get in touch with these people and give them other ways to do this. But we have to have a central database. We don't have it. Nobody knows what's going on.
And
And
Jan, hey Jan, can I just, and I'm gonna know there's plenty of
Yeah.
members with their hands up, but just
Oh,
really
sorry,
quickly,
sorry.
one of the things that we've always struggled with Lake Bluff in terms of data management when it comes to recycling is it's not mandatory, right? So the idea of, we're not out there. Occasionally we've talked about working with SWALCO to go out and do an audit and look what's happening. That's how we got some of the data we did, but it's not mandatory. So, but we have fantastic participation. So, but you're right, the data is not great. So Brian, I know I see all these hands up.
Why don't we, Drew or
Samantha.
Samantha, sorry, sorry, Samantha. Why don't you call on the various members for who have their hands up?
Sure. I saw co-chair per year had her hand up first.
So Jan, I'd like to thank you and your Paul and your daughter for at least bringing this forward and trying to seek a solution to a ongoing problem nationally. So I thank you for that. I think there were a couple of things that went through my brain. One is I'm envisioning a whole lot of like plastic bags, like dog bags used to collect food as you go door to door, which is like really sends me over the edge. Even the ones that might be compostable, which I don't really believe, but that would be one thing. And I think in your quest for information, it might serve us all to have those students or whoever go door to door, like the American, not Red Cross, but the Heart Association. You used to sign up in your neighborhood, you'd go door to door and try and get dollars. Well, if your neighbor is going to everyone on North Avenue, in my case, and taking 2 blocks or 3 blocks and trying to find out who's composting, who's not composting, who's here 6 months, sort of our own little Lake Bluff census, know that it's coming, we might actually get some answers. Then the other thing is, dog waste. And it occurs to me that we might end up with dog bags going into these receptacles in the neighborhood just because they're there. How do we prevent that? And how do we prevent that now, just generally? Thirdly, or fourthly, would be my son and daughter-in-law in Lake Forest have a Jura composter, which they take their pizza boxes, they take meat, bones, everything. And in approximately 2 weeks, they have 2 sides to their bin. Their neighbors, all of them come down the street, dump it into their bucket that's hanging on their mailbox. And then Chris and Erica put it in their Jura. They spin it, then they send a neighborhood letter out saying the compost is ready, help yourself, bring your pail, whatever it is. And they have done it in their own neighborhood. So, it's possible. And I'm sure that David at DK Organics is just waiting for the machine that he uses to till to actually have a large enough cutter or a small enough cutter to be able to get the bones. And I know that equipment comes from Germany or Sweden, pick one. And I'm sure supply chain has held that thing up indefinitely. So, my concerns, dog waste, could we be doing this like the American Heart Association going door to door, and plastic bags with the kids collecting. Maybe it's better to have pails generated, and then you get a replacement pail that week and you take your compost, the kid picks up your compost bucket and puts it in his wagon, pick something. But I also compost 24/7 from my kitchen all winter long. So I think there are more people out there doing it than you think.
Love that neighborhood. That's cool. I think that's neat.
Yep.
Lake Forest has been very resistant to offering a neighborhood or a community composting program for food scraps, because they claim that only 1% of their people are willing to do this. But the key here to this program, and you're quite right, Marina, it is education. Okay, education is key. Direct education. Education, as you say, you have your son that lives in Lake Forest, he has 2 blocks. But how many people are willing to have their machine and have people within 2 blocks have a machine that can do this composting? Okay, and that is not made easy. We just have to make this easy for common people like me. Okay, I know all these things. I have quite an experiential background and academic background in environmental recycling this thing, but it is made sort of complicated for me. And even though I know and I would try, and just like my neighbor said down the street, I would do it, but I just need direction. So if you give everybody a pail and that wants to sign up, you would see, okay, are you willing to participate in this program? And you give everybody a pail, and you give everybody liners that wants to participate, and you say, okay, here's the thing down the street. Okay, this is all you have to do is get in this container. Now, in terms of the dog poop, there has not been from the programs around, there has not been that much trouble, particularly if you educate people. Okay, you're educating people about this container. This container will be watched. You know, the student is responsible for it. But education, we need a common bank. We need a common database. I commend you for food scrapping all year long. But how many people are going to go to that trouble of doing it, okay, all year long? There are people that do it 8 months of the year, and then when it gets too cold, they don't do it, okay? So but we don't know who they are. If we had a registry, say, and people would be proud. People would be proud to be part of the registry.
Jan, why don't we listen to hear what everyone else has to say who has their hand raised?
Sure, Member Cole.
Sure. You guys hear me? Yeah. I'd like to just kind of reiterate Co-Chair Poyer's sentiments. Thank you for bringing this before us. I think this is a perfect thing for our committee. I think it's the perfect thing for our village. I want to thank you for your hard work and trying to make this happen. I know how important this is. I know what an issue this is with yard waste, and I'm very happy to see it come before us and try and figure out a solution. That being said, I'm going to try and poke some holes in what you guys are talking about first, and then I'm going to try and build you back up a little bit. So I'm going to talk about a few things here. The first being, is this model that you are proposing here an existing model or one that you're coming up with on your own? In other words, are there other examples of yard waste programs for a village this size that are successful right now that you base your model on, or is this just something you are surmising on your own?
I have to unmute. This program has come about from years of kind of research. There are programs in California for big cities and this kind of thing. There are programs even in Chicago for specific neighborhoods. And what they have found out, the problem with the programs is the monitoring of the receptacles.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So this is not an existing program that we are modeling off. This is one that we're trying to create on our own for our own.
Right. For the size of our village.
Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do, the city of Evanston, I lived there for about 5 years. They have a wonderful food waste recycling program that is very successful. I will point you to collectiveresource.us. And there's a website there. They do food waste composting in both Evanston, Morton Grove, as well as Skokie. It's a very successful program that we participated in while we lived there. One of the key aspects of this, and which I think you guys should add into this program, is a farmer's market site where people can drop their buckets off. Number one, because people go to the farmer's market are of the like mind. So let's get a tent up there. Let's get, if we have an education problem, if we have a survey problem, let's use that tent as not only a waste drop-off site where people can bring their bucket because they're coming to the farmer's market already, but also a source of, hey, we want to ask you some questions. Hey, take some education. Hey, tell your neighbors to come visit us, just so we are visible, we are out there, we are engaging with the community, so that they can see that sort of thing. Number two, the idea of building infrastructure is an interesting one, but it is a cost prohibitive one. Knowing there's a number of reasons why I'm very hesitant about adding any existing infrastructure into the city of Lake Bluff, especially in an untested model and an untested program that would, if abandoned, all of a sudden we have these abandoned food waste sites all around every neighborhood. I understand the want to move at a slow pace and do it neighborhood by neighborhood. But I think there are a number of things that could go wrong with this approach. Number one, asking people to change their behavior is nearly impossible. Trying to get people to haul a bucket full of food waste down the street to a community bin, you are asking them to do a lot of things, right? It's not just going for a walk. It is remembering to put it in the bucket, remembering to grab the bucket, remembering to walk it down and dump it in. Number three, volunteer programs are very hard to maintain. Asking people to do things for free for you on an extended and lasting basis is very hard to be successful at. So I would like to poke some holes and that sort of stuff. And you don't need to respond to me. I'm just trying to raise these things to awareness. I am concerned about animals and smell during the summertime, though the bins will probably be animal proof, I'm sure. The smell during the summertime, if it's a weekly pickup, when it's a whole community of food waste coming to a single location on a hot August week, is probably not something people want to add to on a weekly basis in the summertime. So what I would like to propose, before I get into that, I think the idea of incorporating the schools and the village and the park district in terms of education is an excellent idea, especially getting, even grade schoolers involved, middle schoolers involved in the launch of the pilot program. I think is an awesome way to get that communication out there, as well as sourcing information for education from households. Hey, kids, do your parents recycle food waste? They do. How do they do it? Do they do it in here? Do it in there? I think I agree that we do not have the right data to know anything about anything of this program, right? Another thing that I would like to challenge the board, our village board, to do is, as I'm going through our social media sites, I noticed the last post the village posted on their Instagram site was 232 weeks ago. There is no Lake Bluff Village Facebook page. There is no Lake Bluff Village Twitter account. These are the mediums that people are communicating on right now, especially younger generations. I think the board, if we want to be more proactive in communicating with the city, we need to set these sites up and be more proactive on these things in order to convey this information. These are the signposts of my generation and probably Alexa's generation. Have we had those big placards out on, Green Bay and 176? While those might work for the older generations, my generation, we learn from our phones. We find out about things on our phones and we talk about things on our phones. So those social media channels are an excellent place to tag people and say, hey, look at this neighbor, look at this neighbor, look at all of these things, neighbor. Lastly, I would like you, Paul and Janice, to think about, instead of asking people to walk down the street and carry a heavy bucket of food, to try and incorporate your pickup and drop off into normal pickup and drop off waste behavior, much like the food waste yard programs have. Can we incorporate buckets, which the city of Evanston did? Let me back up. The city of Evanston, the nonprofit that worked in Evanston that did the food waste program, had all of the kind of relevant instructions that you needed to know, the watch outs, the yes, cans and can'ts on these 5-gallon plastic buckets with lids that people kept in their garages. So when their little countertop thing got full, they took it out to wherever their garbage cans are, they dumped their food in there, and they dropped it off. And then they couldn't do this because the city of Evanston was too big, but I think Lake Bluff can do this because it's so small. I think we could ask people to just take their bucket, put it out with their garbage on garbage day. It's a very simple, easy behavior. Make the buckets orange or bright red so that they're noticeable, especially because when people see the orange or red buckets and they see 10 of them out on garbage day, or they see an entire neighborhood full of red buckets right next to the garbage on garbage day, they're going to say, well, hey, what's that? What's going on there? Oh, I didn't even know that's happened. It becomes kind of literally a red flag for this program. Lastly, cost, I know, is going to be very prohibitive in making sure that this works. One of the things that I would like to suggest is charge people a somewhat higher price for the bucket. If your bucket is going to be a $5 to produce, charge them $30 for the bucket. Up price all of the liners that might be required for the buckets. So if the liners are $5 a bag, charge $30 a bag of 10 or 20, right? So that your overhead is 30, 40, 200%. So that is a way that you can generate income. And again, very important, make sure that the buckets and the bags are easy for people to get. So whether they're at the farmer's market or whether at the village hall or whether the village can even, Jake, I know you're probably listening, drop them off if people pay for them. However we want to do that, I would challenge you guys to try and think about this program in these ways, because I have seen successful programs before run like this. And so I encourage you to go out and look for those successful programs and see what's working and what's not. And that's all I have to say.
Alexa?
Sam, who's next?
Yeah, Member Richard.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think all the things Member Cole just said were great. I think it's particularly a good idea to have bright, noticeable buckets as kind of an easy way to spread word. But what I was going to talk about was getting student volunteers for your program. I think that's a great idea. And definitely at Lake Forest High School, a few people come to mind. There is an environmental club. You could try to do something with them, maybe kind of a joint initiative. You could also talk to environmental science teachers at the school, or you could get someone to put posters up in the hallways. I could do that. And if you are in a lot of need of volunteers and you're finding that you're having a hard time getting them, as kind of a last resort, you could talk to some environmental science teachers as offering working with your program as an extra credit opportunity. I know that a lot of students would probably take advantage of that because I'm in an environmental science class in my high school, and a lot of students tend to take those extra credit opportunities. So if you do find it comes to that, that would probably be a good idea. Kind of blanking on what else I was going to say. But yeah, all in all, I think it's a very good idea. It's a good initiative, but we're here to just kind of clean things up and tie up all the loose ends, but it's definitely a very good plan to begin with. And I think it's great that we're trying to reduce food waste in this community. We need the program, and I'm glad that someone's brought it to our attention. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
I would like to respond to that. Your teacher, your environmental teacher is already involved at the high school, as it is your documentary film teacher. They have both been very receptive to this. I have also promised your president of your environmental club, who would like to have been involved in this, that as soon as we get this project off the grounds, I have promised, because they wanted to be part of this, And I had promised them that as soon as we got this off the ground, because we had to get this off the ground, I would personally come and help that club president write a proposal for Lake Forest High School, which is what they will want to do. Okay, and so that has already been addressed. Thank you though for your comments. I love them.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that we're on the same page.
Member Barrett?
Again, Janice, I'm your neighbor, by the way. I live down the street from you, and it's a pleasure to get to finally meet you, not literally in person, but in this way. And I have heard about your project for quite a while, and it was really amazing to see what you have put together and the thought and time that has gone into this. So I really applaud you. And I, like you, I cannot say how strongly I believe that education is the key to this. And I'd like to relate an experience I had this at the farmer's market table and also at the Union Church Chautauqua that they had, the camp meetings. So I worked at the table for the farmer's market several times, and Green Minds were working on two major sort of focuses, which was single-use plastic bags and the reduction of that, and also food scraps composting. So I spent quite a bit of time figuring out the kitchen to the curbside, and I literally called Groot several times. I got some buckets from the Lake Bluff Park District that they used for, believe it or not, their pool chemicals, but they were in packets, so the buckets were not contaminated. They made perfect 5-gallon compost retainers. So I experimented on myself with getting my sink, kitchen bucket. I got a biodegradable liner, which, by the way, I checked with Groot, and those biodegradable ones are certified for commercial composting sites. Groot will take them. So I had a lot of success this summer, honestly, although it took me a while to get into the flow of it, and I missed a few pickups, and I had a nasty compost bucket, but I managed to get it from my kitchen into the bucket out to the curbside. And once I had some success with that, and I was talking to people in the village about their experiences, the most astounding thing was, and I must have talked to dozens and dozens of people, almost nobody knew that food scraps were collected here. And they were like, oh, I didn't know that. And at one point I set up a display of the curbside bucket, the kitchen bucket, the actual liner, which just helps with what I call the ick factor. It contains all your food scraps that you're putting in there in the kitchen. You can tie it up, you take it out to your curbside, or the bucket that's going to the curbside, and it's kind of neat and tidy, and all you have to do is rinse out the bucket and start over. So that being said, when I gave away some buckets, gave away a few liners, and swiped a few of the kitchen things, they were literally flying off the table. It was, back to what you're saying, it was easy for them. Not everybody was sold, but agreed to give it a try. I gave them my number and said, if this is not working, I will personally come pick up. Luckily, nobody called me. And I heard from Ann Anderson at the Union Church. They had gotten a report that there'd been a comment from Groot that there was an increase in the number of food scrap buckets out there after those. I think that just proves your point, Janice, that if we could get direct education, or at least well-dispersed education, so that many, many people got to hear this, and so I think social media plays a huge part in this, that we could take an existing opportunity offered to the village at, I won't say no cost, but the residents certainly don't feel that there's a cost to them, and they just take their food scraps out to the curb. The yard waste thing bag was very confusing because, again, not everybody has yard waste. Craft paper bags leak, so you can't put your food waste in craft paper bags because Groot will not accept that, for one thing. Their requirements are a plastic bucket with a handle and preferably a lid, although because I like my Groot guy, I take the lid off so he doesn't have to fuss with it. And it was pretty streamlined. So in terms of possibly using something that's already built into our community, that would be something I think that we could really put some time and energy into and have marked success if we could just get the marketing and the communication right, which has not been here before.
Thank you. And Member Hans?
Yes, hello. Can everybody hear me? My screen just changed. Hang on one second. I have a strange thing on my screen. There we go. That's better. All right, Jan, it is so nice to see your face. We've spoken on the phone before, and I have to say, and I knew it the first time I spoke with you, you are a force to be reckoned with. You are an inspiration, and I thank you so much for everything you've done to put this together. My impression after listening to you speak tonight is that your program has been so well researched. You've drilled down to the smallest detail. You have a vision, and your passion is infectious. I think the networking that you've done to build up a support team is very encouraging and very exciting. Like everyone has said, education from the very, very beginning. The data collection is key because that's what we can look at to monitor success and change the plan, change the way we do things. We've got data that we can look at and then, manage differently based on the outcomes that we get along the way. Social media is key. I loved hearing about how, things used to be done a certain way, but nowadays, really, it is the phone. It is every kind of social media aspect because it's quick, but it also adds a level of legitimacy, as funny as it sounds, to what we're doing. It spreads the word. And I will add just an anecdotal note to my experience with this. From 1996 to 2002, my husband and I lived in Germany. And it was a long time ago, but it was a masterclass in recycling. They are decades ahead of us. And so I am excited, and we got used to it. We were there for 6 years, and they recycle glass by brown glass, green glass, clear glass, and the culture was steeped in this belief. And what you're talking about doing eventually is changing behavior and creating a cultural shift where food scrapping and walking down to the end of the driveway with your bucket is just normal. It's what everybody does. And I think that the program that you've lined out with this detail, that's going to happen. The other thing I will add, and I've lived it. I went to Germany, never recycling anything, and came back. We're fanatical recyclers now. We're fanatic about it. So the other thing I want to say is that no program is going to be perfect. There are going to be problems. There are going to be mistakes. There's going to be someone saying, a raccoon got into my stuff. That we have to expect. That's going to happen. But this is so teed up to be successful that I just have to say thank you for this. I can't wait to hear more. I can't wait to hit the challenges and then brainstorm about how we're going to fix this. It's only going to get better, but I don't think we should hold back until we think it is perfect. I think you've gotten such a good plan put together with the network you need to make it work and enthused people about it, that I think we ought to get it going and see what happens. The only other thing I would ask about, and maybe you mentioned this and I didn't catch it, this 3%, only 3% participation. Why is that? Why is it only 3%? First of all, how do you know it's only 3%? And I believe that it is, but why is it only 3%? What about that program did not work? And what can we learn so that we can avoid whatever it is that's happening there and make this program better? So my question is, how do we know it's only 3% and why do we think it's only 3%?
Yeah, I would piggyback on that and say we can't at one turn say we don't know how many people are doing it, and then at the other say 3% are doing it. You know, I think.
No. What I have done, it's unfortunate, but when this curbside program got started, the Swellco has relied on the haulers to keep track of this program. Okay, so it took a long time, but I finally was able to get from Swellco groups listing of all the households in Lake Bluff for the month of May 2020. Okay, and it took a long time because first I was told some things that I don't know what now, because there's no bad people. There is no bad people. It's just a fact that it's not organized, okay? And the county is aware of this now. We have a marvelous new county board and several environmentalists on that board, which is fabulous, okay? And they're listening to this. Our state representative is listening to this because I keep them informed. I put most of this in writing. The whole research thing is in writing now. So I finally got this thing out for the month of May. And I went through the thing and there were actually only 44 households in the month of May 2021. I apologize. I lost a year here with all this Corona stuff and everything. But anyhow, and so we have to base that on the number of households. We were only 44. So you figure it out, okay? If we have 2,000 households and then only 44 for the month of May participated, and the weather was good then. It's not like, you know, whatever. And we're only involved in the food scrap. The food scrapping as it stands now in Lake Bluff with the pickup, as Drew told you, he's really worked on this. He has really worked on this with DK Organics. And as it stands now, they're only picking up the vegetable scraps and like eggshells and coffee grounds, okay? They don't pick up meat and bones. And it's not a matter of taking a pail down or whatever. People don't put pails in these curbside things. They put in the bags, the special bags, and there are manufacturers that produce just the kind of bag that can go in the food, in the waste, the organic waste, yard waste. So that's how I got data of the. I got some other wild stuff that you don't even want to hear, but okay. that is actual data. And I had to go through the list. I actually went through the list. I got the list by household, you know, by street. I don't care who lives there. I just had the addresses. And so I went through it myself and it was 44 people and all of Lake Bluff of 2,000 households that were doing food scrap.
Well, you know, I know this has been said before, but I think a lot of people don't even know about this. I just think and that's maybe where social media comes in, where your education comes in. Where your
education. Right.
Yeah.
Swalco has all kinds of wonderful literature put out, because they've gotten grants, through the agriculture department. and so
Uh-huh.
And, but, people don't read that. They're not gonna sit
I
down
know.
and read. You
know.
need, it's direct education is the
Yes.
only thing that's gonna
Yes.
work.
Yes.
And it's not a matter of carrying a pail down. See, it's all you're taking is the liner for the pail down and putting it in a container. Now, how you do it, I don't know. Deerfield is just going into a project now, where they have given every household, Deerfield has 6,000 households. Okay. They have given everybody a third container, a 35-gallon container for yard, which they call for yard waste. And everything is going to go into that container, and that container will go out. Now, they got a real deal on this thing. Only 100, only 1,025 households said they are willing to do this, even though they got the container. And they gave them buckets. Everybody was given the buckets. They were giving the liners, everything. The liners have the buckets are in the house, but it's the liners that are what goes into the solid waste or into the.
You know what? Can I just interrupt you for 1 second, and then I'll turn my mute button on. But what you're saying makes me think that we need to produce a YouTube video, because we go to YouTube to see how to do everything. I'm unpacking my box. I'm doing this. Here's how you do that. If you have a YouTube video, with somebody, here's my bucket, I'm taking it and putting my stuff. That's how people will learn how to do this. They'll go on YouTube. It'll be.
We're going to have a documentary. This is.
I know, but I mean, just the average person.
Yeah.
Here I am at my house. We just had Thanksgiving. Look at all this stuff. Here's what I'm going to do. I mean, a real, lively, normal, like all the YouTubers. They're just kids they're people with their iPhones shooting their own pictures. But if you created a YouTube video or two with different scenarios, and then we had links on the Lake Bluff website under a category of how to food scrap.
We have to have a center for this. We have to have the library. We have to have a center where all this is put on. I personally don't use YouTube. Okay.
You know what though, Janice, I will tell you, try YouTube and just go on. I mean, if you searched right now, if you went into Google and searched, how do I compost food, and then clicked on video, you would see a list of people who are already doing it. So I think in terms of, people don't read the pamphlets anymore. But if you did a search on how do I food scrap and you hit video, they would be there. So I think an idea, and I don't know who's going to do this, but I'll sign up.
The high school kids. We should get the
Yeah,
high school kids to make the video. They know how to make the video that the kids will be watching and the parents will be watching.
Their film instructor has agreed to mentor them, and we already had a couple kids signed up that would make the video. Okay.
you know what though? I mean, making videos is so easy. We can all make a video.
Marietta, Jan's program contemplates exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, very good. All right, Jan, fabulous.
Yeah.
We're ready to experiment. I don't think we need to wait till it's perfect.
Yeah,
I think you're fabulous.
That's what a demonstration project is.
Yes.
That's why we're saying a demonstration project.
I know. We got to get demonstration gardening.
One subdivision, okay?
Yes.
One subdivision, period, with 102 possible households. Okay, we're going to collect the data on that. We're going to go house to house. We're going to, while we run that's what a demonstration project does. You collect the data, and then you see where the flaws are, so we can work out all the flaws. It's not like we're going gangbusters like Deerfield, okay? Because one, we don't have the money to do it, and two, we don't have the data to prove that what we work or what works and what doesn't. We don't have a full scale data on that. We have.
And I think we're only missing comments from member Twitchell at this point.
Yeah, and I want to be respectful that we do have, we do have the rest of the meeting where we've got to go over the topics, nearly 50 of them, sustainable topics to prioritize for the next year. So I do want to try to wrap this up. This will not be the last discussion on this. I want to make sure we continue the discussion, but I think that we do need to wrap it up. So, Member Twitchell.
Yeah, thanks. So I think as someone who has done backyard composting for about 20 years in my yard, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I do think we can improve what we're doing in Lake Bluff. So I think the pilot is very interesting. I do agree with Brian and Cam as well that there could be ways to enhance the programs that are already offered, especially if we will be able to do more through DK. So one question I had, and it seems so basic, I must have just missed it, was if we're filling these central bins in the neighborhood, then what? They're gonna fill up. So then is it compost that's distributed to the community? I mean, it's much harder to break down bones and pizza boxes and all that. So maybe I just missed that. But anyway, that was one question. But anyway, I'm very supportive of a pilot program to see, because the things we have now aren't necessarily working that well. I have a lot of other thoughts, but the meeting's very long and I cannot stay until midnight tonight. So I will stop there.
I just have one more additional comment that I'd like to make, and then we can move on. I want to share an anecdote of, I share this a lot. I was in the Peace Corps for 4.5 years in West Africa. We worked with Eye Doctors Without Borders. And one of the most interesting things that I learned about Eye Doctors Without Borders is that they used to give away their glasses to third world countries. You know, Eye Doctors Without Borders, they go to these impoverished areas, they do free eye exams, and they used to give away free eyeglasses. And then they would return a year later and they'd find that everyone who they gave free eyeglasses to just threw them away. They didn't care about them. They didn't use them because they were free. But once they started charging those people a minimal fee for their glasses, they loved those glasses and took care of them because they had ownership in part of those glasses. So I want to share that with you as a bit of wisdom, which when people are invested in a program on their own, as opposed to something that's free, they're more likely to participate in it and do all of the things that you want them to do. When you shove it upon them, they're probably going to be like, yeah, no, I don't have the time to deal with that. So that's number one. Number two, I want to convey the importance of, we say communication and education is the key. When you launch this program, I advise you to do an integrated information campaign across all channels that you have at the same time. So all of your grade school curriculum is launching at the same time of all of your Instagram channels are going, as well as all of the whatever farmers market table you have. I hope that the village can waive whatever farmers market fees. I don't know how the farmers market works, but if this program can have their own table and not be associated with maybe Green Minds or someone else, so that they have the visual kind of identity that the village residents can be looking for. And then lastly, I had one more integrated push. I guess that's it. Thank you.
All right. Well, then Co-Chair Renner and Puryear, what we'll do is, I think we originally talked about if we didn't get a robust participation from the neighborhood, that's kind of the other data that we're missing. Maybe what we should do is schedule a separate meeting outside of the SEC, since you have a lot of work to cover, and then we can come back with that data and share what we learn. How does that sound?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I think that we could also craft time. I think a lot of us brought up some points tonight that I think we'd like to, obviously in an open meeting, discuss internally as a SEC meeting on approaches. and combine those two things, a separate meeting with the community members, but also some of the points have been brought up tonight, and maybe that helps form where we want to go with this.
I'm sorry, one more comment. It came to me, and then I'll be done. All of the restaurants in Lake Bluff should be participating in this program, and they should have visualness so that they have signage, they have the buckets out, everyone can see it when they're going out to eat. It should, I mean, I would love to say you have to do it. I know we can't do that, but I know commercial scale food waste is a major problem. We have a lot of restaurants right now in the city of Lake Bluff, as well as, the Park District should be pressed to engage in this program as well. I don't know if you guys have a plan for how that's going to happen, but I would
Schools and the schools.
poke you in that direction on how you're going to handle bulk food waste, not just on a local resident scale, but on a grand Bluffington's, Innovasi, other door, Bonk, all of the other ones, how you're going to handle pick up, drop off information, all of that stuff.
And schools, in the schools.
Yes, I think it's an awesome program. I'm very excited about it, but I think there's a lot of work ahead for sure.
Yeah, I won't report, but there's lots of opportunity with our commercial franchise that just got approved. And so there's lots of opportunities through that. The good news is a lot of the bigger producers are already way involved. Heinen's, you see behind their stores, they're doing it's happening already. And, the brewery long ago was one of the first ones to get into it. So it happens organically, pun intended. So I won't get into a lot of that, but if I could, Glenn, would you share with the group the social media campaign through the Village's Facebook page that we did this last year about the Village's food scrapping program?
Sure. I'll say, of course, Sam is running the show tonight. I've been listening a bit here. A lot of different points we could cover about the existing compost program that maybe we can provide some more information about at a later time. But certainly, we've taken some efforts to advertise our composting program. So every household in the village has, our solid waste information that includes our guidelines for composting. It's on the village's website too. We participated in a SWALCO. SWALCO went out on behalf of a few of its agencies that food scrap and got a USDA grant through 2021. And that'll continue into 2022 to get a marketing firm that would create a lot of this, a lot of social media content for us that we used. So I think you may have seen this in
Sounds like
April,
most of you
May.
missed it though.
Yeah. April, May, June of last year on the Village's Facebook page. This is old enough now that I can't show you the statistics. We can get those back from Swalco, but each of these was in the neighborhood of a couple thousand views, which is typical for our page. Each one talking about general composting messages, what can go in, what are the benefits, things of that nature. I'll tell you, and this brings together a few of the threads from your conversation. So as we started getting into this, unfortunately, we, the village, were different from other programs in a few important ways, including the meat, the pizza boxes. So some of the content that was made for that grant wasn't stuff we were able to use. Another thread was we knew that we were going into these franchise negotiations that got us a new residential and commercial franchise. A lot of important program details changed then. So for example, right now, up until April, group isn't required to take compost unless it's in a 32-gallon craft paper bag. So if you put out your, your waste basket at the curb, some group drivers will do that for you. They're not required to. Our new franchise makes it clear that a 32-gallon bucket or smaller needs to be taken with food scrap with compost. There are the facility changes Drew talked about, a couple other things going on, the launching of our commercial franchise. So as we started getting into June and we knew that more of this information wasn't applicable to us, we started pulling back on what we published in 2021 and tried to keep some of these materials in reserve for 2022. Keeping in mind, I'll reference Member Cole's statement here that we want to use all channels at once. We knew we were going to have to announce some pretty big changes within less than 6 months, and we wanted to do that at once in a cohesive way. So as in the next couple months, as we get towards that new launch in April, and a new chance for residents to pick their carts and pick their services in May, you'll see more information coming out about that.
The eyeglass anecdote was a good one. You know, a classic economic study, right? You got some skin in the game, you're going to hold on to it. You know, the village you've always been able to acquire a third cart, like Deerfield's giving their residents. You always had the ability to rent one. Since we've had this deal with Groot and we've been doing curbside, very few people do. I was trying to get the number tonight, but it's never been a big number. So that's always been there, and that's something that I'm gonna guess probably people on this call didn't know about, but it's always there. So anyway, I'm appreciative of your time, Jan. Thank you. Jan, you and I can regroup and take these comments and take your next steps and come back to this group. So
I really thank everybody for allowing me and Paul to participate in this. And this has been a long time coming. Most of this is written up. I found a few typos, but I was going through it and so I'm going to redo it and send it all to Drew again, so that you can get all the history. It's all documented in 3 papers. Where the history of it, where we are now, and where we would like to go. Okay, so I will try to get that done this week. I found terrible typos. Okay, thank you so much.
thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone need a 1-minute break? Or are they okay?
And a cup of coffee.
Yeah, this was an important topic to discuss, but I know that we're challenged with the number of items we need to have to cover, and I'm wondering, you know, we've got almost an hour and a half, 2 hours now into this, and whether we have sufficient time to go through this list tonight. And I'm opening it up to the committee to discuss this, and whether we want to, I hate to delay this again, or whether we want to go through it partially and then return to it once more. So I'll open it up to the group on how they feel about the time necessary to go through this, because I want to make sure we dedicate the time.
So my vote would be, I mean, I'd be perfectly happy having a second Zoom meeting this month to give it, you know, proper attention. I'm trying to fly out tomorrow morning at 6:30 and I want to finish packing. So no distraction, but so anyway, that would be my request. I'd be glad to meet again, because I think it's really important. It's the core of what we're doing and what we're meant to be looking at. So I'd like it to have proper attention.
I would be inclined to minimally look at the things that say no progress and figure out if some of the things could move to we should make progress, or they can, or it's okay for them to be no progress for right now. I have been on Zoom calls since 4 o'clock today. So I'm sort of at the end. I'm not used to that.
Welcome to my world. I'm on Zoom calls all day, every day. It's not
Oh
fun.
God.
Yeah.
This is dreadful.
I would love a high level introduction to this information with perhaps a, hey, here's what we're looking at. Here's what it's all about, because I am not very familiar with it. And then everyone go look at it on your own and come to our next Zoom meeting well prepared and well informed to discuss the topic.
Sure, I can give a brief overview if you all feel comfortable looking at it either briefly right now or at a later time. But basically this item, the village has adopted a sustainability plan in June 2019, and we are currently implementing this plan. This plan aims to improve sustainability by focusing on 7 different goals, which include solid waste management and recycling, energy conservation, water conservation, stormwater solutions, natural spaces, light pollution, and pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, while listing some actions that are being taken or considered along with these 7 goals. The actions have been ranked based on priority and have been measured from either no progress made to completed. So attached to your packets is a spreadsheet which aims to capture this progress made over the last 2 years. The purpose of this item was to discuss any amendments, recommendations, or clarifications that you have. But if you want to take a deeper look into the spreadsheet at a later time, that's up to you. I can also share the spreadsheet as well if you want to just look at it together, maybe the ones that are no progress.
So I think there's a couple items here. First is that, because we've got a lot of new members on the committee. One is to look at the priorities we've established. Within these categories, you can see which ones have been given higher priority than others. You as a committee may have a few things like, I know you made this priority 3, but I want priority 7 brought up, and I think we could move priority 3 down. And then personally, I think once you've looked at the priorities, then there's the idea of what's been completed, not been completed, and how much effort it's going to take to do that. And some of these priorities too, at the time we did them, and Maria, you can jump in. Some of them were, we know that's going to take a really long time. It's important, but let's hit the high ones that we can get off quicker and make those higher priorities. So there were trade-offs between this is really important, but we think we can get this other thing done quicker. So we might have played with the priorities in terms of difficulty as well. So I think as you go through this list, it's a matter of you as new members definitely taking a look at if this fits with your priorities and if there's any adjustments, and then how much time we can spend on each one. Because obviously, there are so many important things that we could look at, but they're going to take a lot of time, and they're going to take staff's time as well. The good thing is that the village board the previous village board was very good with this, but I think the current village board is even more interested in pursuing our recommendations. So there's definitely the opportunity to just keep moving forward after all of our successes that we've had. We've had some great successes. I think we should, when you look at some of these completed, recognize the efforts that have been done and what we have accomplished in the last couple of years with waste and recycling, and the commercial district now and the things we're doing with the landscape playbook, and the things we're doing at all over town really are great accomplishments. And I think it's now time to go to the next things. So
just let me jump in here. As a new member, I'm really intrigued about this. I'm really excited about it, but I have some basic questions. But my point right now is that it has been almost 2 hours. And this is so important that maybe this evening, if we say, all right, we're going to go for another 20 minutes and get whatever we can done, and then stop. Or we just say, let's reschedule for another time when we are fresh and ready to address this. And the other thing I would add is that when I looked at the spreadsheets, very, very good. But I can see that it's sorted by category. And I went through and did my own quick analysis, and I'm not sure who did the spreadsheet, but I would request a couple of other different sorts. For example, I would love to see a sort by priority, see all the highs, all the mediums, and all the lows, no matter what category they're in, if you understand what I'm asking for. And then, for example, I highlighted something that was a high priority with limited progress, high priority with no progress. I'd be interested to see things organized a little bit differently. You know what I'm saying? It's enabling us to analyze the data a little bit better, and that'll tell us where to work, because there are priorities that are very high that have had no progress. So I'd want to look at it by priority and by progress, and not so much by the category it's in. You see what I'm saying? So if we could get that sorted, and just in a quick analysis, I look at this, and the category that has the most high priorities with no progress high priorities with limited progress is the bicycle and pedestrian. So that's telling us something if we look at that. So I think we need to have this data to have a really great discussion sorted a little bit differently. So I'm saying a lot of things, but I would prefer if we started fresh on another day and maybe had the data sorted differently before the meeting so we could talk about it a little bit different way.
We could have several sorts, several different
Yep.
spreadsheets.
I'd like several sorts.
Yeah,
also.
because it's
Yeah.
hard to, what we're looking at is the priority. We're looking at those key factors, priority, difficulty, and progress. And it'd be nice to have it sorted under those categories.
Sure, makes sense.
Okay, yeah. And if we had that ahead of time, then I think we could have a really great discussion. Because I'm new, how are priorities assigned? How are we measuring progress? Who measures the progress? Are there deadlines? Are there processes in place? Are certain people in charge of certain areas? So I have a lot of questions that I would like to have answered before I feel like I could really give meaningful feedback.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, sound good?
Co-Chair Renner, if I may add the only other caveat maybe members should think about going into this next conversation is maybe what they were surprised by or what they've been thinking about that's not on this list, right?
Yeah, true.
Or that we
Yeah,
have something that's completed.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, there are a few things completed. There are a few.
I'm only seeing one.
Which I think was undersold in terms of level of difficulty. That commercial franchise was a mandatory 3-year legal study. There was a lot of lifting and work in that.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand how things got, something that looks very difficult was said easy. And that's why I.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, yeah, you do have to sort by how easy it is. Like I said, it's like, we have a high priority. We want our new kitchen renovated in our house, but our microwave oven just failed. So that wasn't as high a priority, but it's got to get done. It's easier to get done. So.
Yeah, like chickens and bees were much easier.
Yes.
And I don't see them as completed on here. It's okay. I'm going to take a yes to that.
No, those are done. Those are done.
Yeah. So could we possibly get on another call next week even?
Yes, please. That would be great. And to have the different sorts for us, because I'm looking at different categories and I see no low priority, no progress. Maybe that's not so bad, but high priority, no progress. What's going on there? And I wouldn't have to hunt for that if it was sorted differently. That's my thing. So new sorts, new day.
Sorry, Sam, another night.
Yeah, and then nothing, let's not put anything else on it.
Sure.
Let's just let it be our own special sustainability plan analysis meeting.
Definitely.
Perfect.
So would it make sense for us to look at our calendars now to avoid a doodle poll?
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you all available on either January 31st or February 7th?
Not 31st. 31st I could do.
I'm available for both.
31st.
Me too.
What was the other day?
February 7th.
7?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah.
What
that would
days?
work for me too.
What days of the weeks are those? If you
They're
help tell me that.
Both Mondays.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I'd be fine with either of those.
They're fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Groundhog Day would work.
Should we just?
Just keep going over the same issues.
Yeah.
Maybe it would help.
Available the 31st.
That's right. I forgot about that. Okay, yeah.
No, those days work for me.
Great. Should we just plan on the 31st then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And is this
And
the
then
most?
and I hate to belabor this, but then when will you get the new sorts to us?
Probably either like by the latest next week.
Okay, because we do need time to have a
Sure.
look at them before we meet.
Definitely.
Good.
Just say
Yeah.
before the 26th.
Oh, sure.
Yes. Yes, thank you. That would give us time to really come prepared.
Sure, definitely.
For those of us that study at the end, we're
Um,
lucky to Zoom thing.
should we do, Drew or Glenn, do we need to call a roll to continue this discussion for the later date?
No, you just need a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Well, can we, I'd like to do a couple of closeout items. It'll only take 2 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, village staff report. You gave me a very good piece of news, Drew, today on the phase 1 study. Are you allowed to mention that?
Well, yes. Stormwater is a big community issue. We have been trying to find different ways to solve it, or at least address it, make it better. I'm talking just large, think of the viaduct flooding in particular.
Yeah.
The village has been studying that through various engineering planning studies. And we recently have gotten some good news that the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission is going to fund a phase 1 analysis of the deep tunnel project. That's the one that puts a large pipe, 72 inches, and collects stormwater at the viaduct and carry it down up Sheridan Road, make a right turn down North Avenue and down to Lilliandale and daylight there. Lilliandale, several feet back from the lakefront, but that is a project that is a $17 million trunk line that the village would plug in various straws in different neighborhoods. And this is a east-west solution, right? Because all the water that falls easterly from Green Bay Road into the terraces, it would capture that water and then also pick up stormwater on the east side and carry it out to Lake Michigan. And that's, a $400,000 spend that the county is going to pick up for the village. So
First big step.
yeah, I mean, it's huge. So that's a big win.
Is that going down North Avenue?
Yes, it is.
Super.
Yes. A large inlet right in front of your driveway.
That's okay.
But here's the bonus. The bonus
Watch out for small dogs.
for those of, and this benefits people further east than you, Marina, but the idea is rebuilding North Avenue to include curb and gutter, which if you go down east, that does not exist, right? You keep going east, it's there's no curbs and it's been a mess for a long time, but this would be.
Oh, I was going to say that's what makes Lake Bluff charming, but anyway.
I think the residents along that street will welcome curb and places to send their stormwater.
Yeah. Well, being as I'm on the crest, the highest point in Lake Bluff, I don't have a stormwater issue.
Talk to your people downstream from you.
No, I know there's a problem.
Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, okay, coming to a village near me.
Yes.
And the other thing, Drew and I started, we are joining a multi-community study / ordinance planning around leaf blowers.
Yes.
The goal here is to work with several other North Shore communities, have multiple committees in different areas, and come up with hopefully a uniform model regulation that would be applied across many communities, and hopefully the goal being sometime in 2023, having an ordinance developed.
Coming back with a white paper, if you will, with a number of points and recommendations coming out this fall.
Sophie, haven't you written that white paper? Not yet.
But to that point is we haven't really started into anything other than just an outline. Drew and I will be reporting, of course, to all of you as the progress goes along and gathering your input within the SEC to take back. So.
Okay. I bet you could find some garden clubs along the shore that would be happy to help you, Drew.
Well, listen, the group is expansive up and down the shore, and it includes elected officials at the city council level, down to staff members, but city managers, and also industry professionals, representing the landscaping companies in this area. So I think the general idea, as Brian pointed out, if there can be a general consensus and a regional approach, that'll be better for everyone.
Sure.
In terms, because the biggest issue, because there's all the communities up down North Shore have a variety of regulations as they relate to leaf blower use. The problem is enforcement, because and that's and so the idea if there's one set of rules for everybody, that'll be a lot easier to enforce.
Right.
And that's all I have, Drew or Glenn, anyone else, and then if there's nothing else, we can motion to adjourn.
I just have a few last points for the staff report. I just want to share that the village board moved to increase the chicken license cap from 10 to 15. The village board did not modify how applications are viewed. And lastly, just wanted to share an update on the Buckthorn Clearance as well as part of the Lobola partnership. And the clearance will continue from early to mid-February, and so far, it's going well.
It looks beautiful.
It's exciting to drive by and see it being bound up and carried away.
Yep, very exciting. I agree.
I agree, Sue. It's just makes a huge difference. It's really exciting. Has anybody given you any pushback on it, negative feedback that you know of?
I haven't heard. No.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now. It's really attractive. That cluster of poplars. It looks really pretty.
Yes.
So, Drew, might it be a good idea to have some sort of a sign that says, especially when people are stuck waiting for a train?
Yes.
That says, under
Habitat restoration in progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Amy.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
I'm a copywriter. That's what I do for a living.
Perfect.
Hired.
Yeah, great.
That's a great sign. That's a great
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really helpful, and it's a
Yes. Yes is the answer. Yes.
Thank you. Great, perfect. One sign coming.
Yay.
And I suppose next meeting we could talk about the train station park lighting upgrades and maybe the lighting for the downtown streetscape changes.
Perfect.
There's more. There'll be more streetscape. We're trying to get through and complete the current project, block 2, and so there'll be some final feedback on some items from the ABR, from the SEC, and working with the Garden Club. So
great. Big changes coming this year.
Yeah, and a new bar.
Yeah.
Where's
Did you
the
see
bar?
that?
Bar coming Friday night, right?
Where?
it's the old bar. It's the new bar.
Oh, okay.
It's Prairie Espresso.
Prairie.
They're
Yeah,
expanded though, right?
Inside bar. It's
Yeah.
like you don't have to be outside.
Just in time for the pandemic.
Yeah, perfect. Thank God. A new
Yeah,
place.
all right. No, it's gonna look fantastic.
They're
It
really
looks
going against
fantastic.
they're really going against the grain there, right? Everybody's trying to be outside. They're
Listen,
like,
that
hey,
is
come on in,
John's-
guys.
John's MO and brand, counterculture, right?
Yes.
No, but it looks beautiful. It's just a
does.
thing on the
Yeah.
street.
It's
So-
gonna be a great addition.
Yep. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh,
Okay, roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
You don't need to. You don't need to. You're good.
No? Okay.
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Thank you,
Samantha,
everyone.
for hosting.
Have a good
Okay.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Job.
Bye.
Safe travel, Soph.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Bye. Bye.